Insulate Britain is the organisation I want to talk about, the ones that have been blocking the roads. Let's go straight over to research fellow at the Henry Jackson Society, Hannah Baldock. Good evening, Hannah.
Good evening.
This is what I want to run past you. I'm just stunned by it. So since the middle of September, when Insulate Britain started blocking roads, gluing themselves to the tarmac, stopping the M25, going down to Dover, we all know the kind of carnage they've caused, ruining people's days. People can't get to work, can't get their kids to school, ambulances can't get patients to hospital, delivery drivers can't make their deliveries. Just awful. So there's been 146 of them taking part in these campaigns. They've been arrested multiple times. So in this couple of months, there have been 739 arrests. Guess how many people have been charged with anything? 0. No one has been charged with a single offence. Hannah, could you tell me what the hell is going on here?
Well, I think obviously it's been an evolving situation where I think initially the police were taken unawares, as they always are, by these guerrilla actions of Extinction Rebellion or its offshoot. And they do, of course, have a duty to facilitate peaceful protest under the European Convention of Human Rights, with up to what is reasonable, and doesn't as long as it's that the protest is peaceful. There is an obligation to let them make their point, and as long as it's not, there's no violence and disorder which is dangerous. I mean, arguably these protests are dangerous from the get-go, because they're obviously sitting in the road on critical road junctions, including the M25. But I think the government realised they needed to take further action. Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary, has instructed National Highways to seek injunctions. They were granted.
I think they've got that now, Hannah. I think yes. A couple of days ago, Grant Shapps announced he had an injunction for every road in Britain. But the Insulate Britain mob were at it again today, blocking roads left, right and centre. Some angry motorists covered, we're just watching it on Talk Radio TV, some motorists covered one of them in ink. And the motorists, understandably, are getting very annoyed. But so we get this announcement, I've now got this injunction. Nothing seems to happen. Now, it's all very well to say you have a right to peaceful protest, but they are breaking the law. They've elicited a lot of fury from the public, understandably. Don't you think the police owe us, the British public, to actually charge these people with something? I mean, blocking the Queen's Highway is an offence. You can't have 739 arrests in a month and a half of mayhem, and no one whatsoever has been charged. That's extraordinary.
Well, I think the last time we discussed this, maybe a week or so ago, 100 protesters had been served with court papers for having breached the first injunction. But then they were served to persons unknown. It took some time to identify the protesters, who they were, names and addresses, and actually get the hearings put in the diary. I think obviously these protesters, as we've seen over the last 5 weeks, they are extremists, because they won't back down. I mean, when Extinction Rebellion burst onto the scene in April 2019, it was with the slogan of "business as usual equals death." So that their aim is to force the government into capitulating to their demands, and they claim that the traffic is driving the carbon emissions, and but the policing inspectorate did tell the police in March it did an inspection on how the police deal with protests, and it said that they were missing opportunities to arrest and charge protesters who deliberately set out to obstruct the highway. Because it's one thing if you're protesting about an issue and incidentally, you're blocking the passage of a road, or or a thoroughfare. But these protests set out deliberately to block the highway. That is their principal motive, and that the police are entitled then to arrest them and to move quickly to arrest them and get them out of the road in these instances.
But they've broken the law. I mean, yes, you've got a right to peaceful protest, but you don't technically have a right to break the law, even if you're peacefully protesting. So given the rising fury of the British public, why are the police just letting these people go? Because that's effectively what they're doing. They're getting them off the road, taking them down the nick, or just taking them down the road and letting them go. I mean, as I say, I don't expect them to charge absolutely every single offender, but 739 arrests in whatever it is, 6 weeks or so, and not a single charge is extraordinary, and I would suggest unacceptable. Haven't we got the right to protest to the police? Could you please start doing something to deter these people from running onto the roads and blocking them?
Well, there's been some debate that's been building up about whether the law as it stands is fit for purpose to deal with this kind of aggravated activism. I mean, clearly arrests are being made. There's 146 members have been arrested, well, 690 times between them, it seems. And so they're just playing cat and mouse and going back out there.
I think it's gone up, actually. 146.
Oh, it's
146 taking part, 739 arrests. So it's the same people in rotation. But I just think that, like myself, people are just going to find it shocking that nothing has happened. You know, do you think we're reasonable to interpret this as a situation where, and this is what many people feel, that the police sympathise with these people because, you know, drum roll, it's climate change?
Well, I guess they've obviously got some sort of fighting fund where they're prepared to take these arrests because it is an unlimited fine as a potential penalty for breaching these injunctions that have been granted by the High Court. They've obviously, you know, one woman today was saying, I don't care if I have to, you know, remortgage my house or if I to make this point. So I think it's just it's a war of attrition, and I think that protesters will be charged in the coming weeks. I mean, it has to be the case that once they have been identified and hearings have been
I hope so.
have taken place, then they'll get a grip on this situation. I think it's because of the COP26 in Glasgow. They took their chance to you know, block the roads again, make their point, whilst David Attenborough is making his point about the climate emergency. So I think it's
again. I'll tell you one thing, Hannah. We can take some small solace in this. Insulate Britain are as annoyed as the rest of us that none of them have been sent to prison so far. They want to go to jail. They want to make that grand gesture to be the martyrs to their cause. And there was a story in the Sunday papers saying, official spokesman of Insulate Britain saying they're exasperated and confused and angry that none of them have yet been charged or faced any kind of incarceration. So I suppose we can take some solace from the fact that they're not getting what they want either. Good to talk, Hannah. Thank you so much for your time again. Hannah Baldock there, Research Fellow at the Henry Jackson Society.